Hey guys, good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? Can you guys hear me okay? If you guys could just type into the chat real quick, just make sure that you guys can hear me good. Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming this afternoon. I'm going to talk a bit about print design. You know, everyone is really making a huge push for the advertising dollars to really be dedicated towards a lot of digital, and we certainly see that with our clients where the marketing budgets are really kind of going a bit more in that direction. But you know what we've also seen is certainly that print is not dead. It's still really an important part of the marketing mix, and I think it's something that we see a lot of competition really not paying nearly as much attention to it as they should. So as a medium, we like it. It does a lot of things different than digital does. You know, it's a bit more personal. You can, I think, make better connections with the people you're trying to sell to. And certainly it's something that because you don't see a lot of the competition using print as part of their marketing plan or as strong part of their marketing plan, you know, to me, that opens up an opportunity for us to do something distinctive, something that's different, something that maybe they're not used to seeing. So, you know, whether you're a contractor or a service business or a retail business, you know, there's still elements of print design that I think work very well as part of your marketing mix. So, you know, we've got a bunch of samples that I want to show you guys today, and a couple of web links that I'm going to take you through and show you just some of the different ways that we've been able to use print as part of some of the marketing campaigns for our client. So go back to here. So certainly pixels are important, and we all know how important the online space is. You know, certainly it's so competitive on the online space. That's why we think, again, that print becomes a good opportunity to do something different, something that you haven't seen your competition really engaging in as aggressively as maybe some of the other areas. So when everyone's really pushing SEO and pay-per-click and kind of ignoring the print as a viable piece of their marketing budget, we certainly look at it and say, hey, you know what, if this is where your competition isn't advertising, then maybe that's where we should advertise. So, you know, even just starting with the elements of print design, what are the things that we see as comprising a print design budget? You know, we've got business cards, stationery, collateral, print ads, billboards, point of sale, and trade shows, door hangers, yard signs, direct mail, and postcards. And I'm going to walk through each of these bullet points here, and we're going to talk about some different examples that we have to give you a little bit more information on why those particular types of print works. So when it comes to stationery, you know, listen, you know, we do a lot of stationery design for clients, and sometimes clients are like, oh, well, we don't really use stationery. But, you know, occasionally you use stationery, you send out communications to your customers. Obviously, business cards are things that people still use, believe it or not. Yes, we hand out business cards still today. So, you know, there's a lot of ways to do stationery that I think you don't see deployed typically. So if you're going to invest in stationery and handing out a nice card, you know, let's do cards that are really nice. Let's do something that's unique, that's not like they've seen before, or a card that'll make them kind of stop and look. And remember, these are all things that help form an impression of what your brand signifies to a potential customer. So if the card is designed really nicely, if it looks professional, those are all things that impact the perception of your business to that particular client that you're trying to sell to or present you know, your product or service to. So I like to also think about what are the things that you can do when you print stationery that perhaps you haven't seen done before. So I'm going to walk through a couple of examples on our gallery, and then I'm going to show you a couple of tangible samples that we have here. So, you know, again, this is a nice set of stationery for a client we did called Fixmatic Electric. And, you know, if you got a letter in the mail from these people, you would probably open it up. And that's kind of half the battle. You know, that's the idea of being disruptive in what you're marketing and what you're showing to people, because here's a nice, very different color scheme, things you haven't really seen before. And this is the type of stuff that I think really makes a difference. This is direct mail, not direct mail, a stationery set for RDS delivery. Again, another nice piece of stationery. Everything is very well branded. You can see how the branding is integrated not only just on the business cards, but certainly on the envelopes and the letterhead itself. Again, it's just simple business cards like that. But if I got something like that, it's going to cause me to take a second look at it. Air Professionals is one that I have here as a sample that I'm going to show you in a minute. Some of these techniques here, like the way this is shown, you can also do things with spot UV, which is, I'm going to show you a physical sample in my hand when we get to that point. And you can just see, again, just some unique ways to design and print stationery. Even just printing envelopes like this where you have, the full use of the envelope. You don't often see that printed that way. And again, it's just something that I think makes it a bit more unique in the space. The color scheme here, how the branding is integrated on this stationery. These are all things that are, again, communicating to your customer that you care about your image, that you care about how you project the identity of your company. And hopefully that translates in their mind as a company that's professional, that's neat, that's going to show up on time. Those are all the intangibles that a really good brand is meant to personify. And stationery is just another example of how you could really get some of those things across. Zoom Drain is another franchise that we branded out in Long Island. They're a national franchise right now. But, again, disruptive colors, everything looks very well coordinated between the different pieces. And those are just a few examples. And if I pop back over to here, and let me see if I could do it this way. So, one of the things I was talking about is spot UV. You guys could kind of see some of the elements of the spot UV even on my business card here. And we did it on the front as well. So you could see, it's a nice effect. You don't see it often deployed. Like I said, don't be square. One of the examples we have here is, again, just rounded business card. I had a client the other day who we sent a layout to, and he said, well, I don't like having my business cards be rounded. And I said, well, we should have it round only because everyone else is doing rounded business cards. So that's really part of what we want to try to be different about is how do we have something that doesn't look like what everyone else is putting out there. So when I'm talking about Air Professionals, here's a letter that was mailed out. We took care of the mailing, and then you could see the stationery, how that looks. Everything looks, very well branded. We also integrated the vehicle on the stationery because we think that that's an important thing that people see quite often. And then you have the brochure that we sent with it. So again, everything is very well coordinated. And it's just, you get a letter like this in the mail and, they look like a professional company. In this particular instance, it's a company we were promoting their maintenance agreement program. And if I'm buying a maintenance agreement program as a homeowner, I want to make sure that the company that I'm buying that maintenance agreement is trusted, that they're going to be there for me when I have a potential issue with anything in my house. So those are all the things that I really feel strongly about. Print can communicate those things, sometimes in a much more personal way than digital can. So let me go back to the desktop here. Okay. All right, so that kind of covers some of the things I want to talk about with stationery. One thing I just go really quickly, integrate taglines on the pieces to reinforce your brand. So, when we do business cards, we're always thinking about how to integrate the tagline as a design component for the stationery. So I know the screen's a little small, but like you could see how we integrated the tagline on this particular business card, your gateway to getaway. So we like to use elements like that on the stationery. We also obviously very fond of doing two-sided business cards. So, you can take advantage of both sides there. So, okay. And if you guys have questions as I'm talking, just drop them into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them as we're going along in case you guys have any questions about anything. So brochures, obviously sales brochures, listen, people still use brochures. You can use them even digitally, obviously. So if you do invest in getting things printed, then certainly you have the opportunity to email them very quickly to people who maybe you can't get a copy out in the mail right away, but you can certainly make use of it that way. But, branded brochures, we see it often in the service industry, especially where, you're going to a home and you're giving an estimate for a client and you don't have anything other than maybe, a form to write your estimate on. Well, what about, who is your company and why are they going to invest in your company versus the 3 other estimates that they've got? And what we've really seen happen with the service industry when it comes to brochures and sales pieces is that they significantly help close sales. We've seen huge turnarounds in terms of close ratios by just having a really nice branded brochure that they can leave with the client. So they may have 3 or 4 estimates in front of them, and then they've got your estimate, and then it's on a nice piece of stationery or it's in a nice pocket folder, and then there's a brochure there that talks about who you are as a company. I'm going to show you a couple examples of some of the ones that we've done. And again, these are all tools that you can use to really tell your brand story. What makes your company different than the 3 other estimates that they have sitting in front of them? What is going to be the story that makes you unique? And also what also may be used to help justify your cost. Maybe you're the most expensive estimate that they have. Is there anything we can do with the collateral that will speak to them as far as why it's worth it to make a higher investment or a more costly investment with your company versus someone else's? And that's a really, important thing, because if the other companies have nothing to say about who they are as a company other than maybe what's online and maybe, maybe there's something in their estimate, maybe. A lot of times there's nothing. Like what we see is our competition, these people don't have other competitors that are even using brochures. So we're like, great, that's awesome. Let's do something that they don't have, because now at least I'm leaving that homeowner with something more compelling in terms of a reason that they should choose you. So here's an example of a brochure that we did for Timo's Heating and Air. And you could see, how the branding is integrated. It talks about why the client might want to sign up for this membership plan. And you could kind of see how everything is laid out. Certainly they can tell it's well designed. Everything is really on brand. And then if we go to the other piece that we did for Timo's, which is really their sales brochure, it gives off the right impression of who this company is and why we might want to do business with them. You get the sense of family. You get the sense of, that it's an honest, trustworthy company. You can see how well we've kind of integrated the branding throughout the piece. Give them a reason as to why you choose Timo's. Again, integrating the pictures of the family on here as well is one way to kind of show them that it's a family-owned business, that they care about the community that they serve. Those are all things that, again, a nice brochure can really get across that you don't see often in terms of what the competitors are doing. So you could see, and also too, one thing I want to note in terms of a piece like this is you can see how well photography is integrated into this piece, and you can see that it's branded photography. So, one of the challenges we have as an agency is sometimes that clients don't have great photography, and, you have to use a mix of stock and maybe some of the photos that you have. But, in this instance, Timo's invested in hiring a professional photographer for a 2-day photo shoot. And then we were able to leverage all that photography on all these other different mediums, not just print. Certainly we used it on their website and elsewhere. So certainly making the investment in photography will give you a much better looking finished product if you have that. So when we have clients that have great photography, it just makes our life so much easier. We're able to do much more creative brochures, I think, when we have that. And certainly we can leverage it on the other mediums that we have to do. This is for a company out in Minnesota. Again, you can see how well the brand lives and breathes throughout this piece. Nothing about this is generic. And that's the other part of the messaging is making sure that when you're talking to your client, that your brand is authentic. And I think this is a great example of just kind of showing, why Tana is a great company to choose to do business with. I certainly feel that they're competent. I certainly feel that they're trustworthy. You know, again, these are all the types of things that I want to try to get across in a sales piece. You know, and then going to even just to different industries, you know, the same thing really holds true. You know, here's a brochure that we worked on for Nicola Law Firm, which is a law firm out in Staten Island that does a lot of franchise law, and then they also do a lot of trademark law. They're actually one of our partner companies. They work with us on handling the trademarks for brands that we create. If anyone needs any trademark work, these guys are the guys to go to, and they're just really good people. But, you know, again, a very nice piece. You can see how, you know, we really tried to make it speak to the audience that they're selling to. This is geared towards people that are looking to franchise their business. So, you know, very clean. But again, it gives off the right impression. It really makes, like, if I'm looking to franchise my business and I read this brochure, I certainly think that this is the right company to go to. I feel that they're very competent. I feel like everything is very well put together and organized. And here's a quick one I could run through for you as well for Kale Orthopedic. It's one of our clients that we have out here in New Jersey. This is their brochure talking about all the different lines of business that they have. And again, really trying to instill that confidence. You know, if you're looking to get surgery done or have an orthopedic issue, I mean, certainly there's, you want to do your research, you want to do your homework, and you want to make sure that the company that you're, or the doctor that you're going to be using is, you know, the right choice for you. So again, pieces like this really help, I think, have people get a sense for who it is that they're choosing to perform surgery. And, you know, again, you can see how the brand was integrated on that. So, you know, one of the things too that's kind of neat is you can do stuff, again, like spot UV on here. And let me see if I could just switch my screen again for you. So this is our brochure. And yeah, there you can see the spot UV. Again, the size of this also is something that's kind of neat that we did a little bit different. So we were trying to think about how we can design a brochure that's a little bit different than every other brochure that people have seen before. Just to show you some of the other creative things that you can do is, like, this is another brochure that we worked on, and it's more of a direct mail piece, but it actually integrates video into it. And you could kind of see how there's actually like a little LCD the company started in 1969. In there. My dad started it, Gary Mozzie. So this getting mailed out to someone is certainly going to make a pretty significant impact on them. They open up something like this and it's very different than everything that they've seen. You know, obviously we were able to integrate the shape of their logo and their brand into the actual packaging, which is pretty neat. So there's just a lot of different opportunities when it comes to print collateral that, you know, people don't often see. This is another piece that we did also for JW Heating and Air. And it was pretty neat because we wound up doing a die cut, a custom die cut for the actual logo on the top. You know, and that's kind of something that you don't see often. And then you could see how this diagonal was integrated throughout the rest of the piece. You know, every spread has something that looks like that. So like I said too, invest in photography. That's something that is always a really smart investment. You know, it's something that you're going to be able to, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure my screen is sharing and now it's not sharing. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So photography, you know, make the investment. It makes the pieces so much more authentic. You know, sometimes you see these brochures and people use the same exact stock images that everyone else is using, or you go to a website and you see the same exact photos that everyone else is using. And you know, people can spot that. You know, they can see right through that. There's nothing authentic about it. So, you know, think about stuff like that, because it's an important investment. And not only does it get used on your print, but it's certainly something that can go on your social and on your website and other things. So it's really an important investment. You know, print ads is something else that's really, you know, another opportunity to reinforce your brand. You know, those are different ways in which you can show, you know, it certainly works in conjunction with your other marketing. It tells a more authentic brand story. And certainly it's not reliant on SEO copy. So that's one of the things that I know is sometimes a struggle is writing content that is going to be, meet the needs of the search engine. So it's really nice, I think, when you can actually write content for Collateral, because you don't have to really think about those other lines of business. So these are some of the print ads that I just wanted to show you real quick that we've done, just to give you a couple of different examples. Again, another print ad for Ton of Mechanical. These were magazines ads. This is one we just finished recently from Aquilin Brothers. Again, the branding you can see is very well integrated in here, and it's something that it speaks to the people that they're trying to sell. I love how, again, the van is something that's integrated in here, and that's something that I think is really important too. Rogers is another client of ours that we did their branding for. You could see here, again, how the brand is very well integrated. The vehicle is featured in the ad. Again, I'm trying to connect the people who have seen the trucks on the road with this print ad. So they say, oh yeah, I've seen that before. And again, just another print ad we did for Metro Media. And this is a print ad that deploys some coupons and things like that. So you could kind of see how those can work as well. So like I said, we tend to really want to make sure that the brand is something that is living and breathing in all the print collateral. So the things that we generally, don't love to see, and certainly, some clients just don't have the choice, but, when you see an ad that looks really kind of generic, where it looks like just the logo was put on there and maybe a generic photo, and there isn't really anything about the brand that's been integrated into those print ads. Those are things that to me are just not as authentic to the people that are viewing it. And again, too, talking about using your own photography, obviously something like that, when you have your own photography integrated in the ads, it's just going to make it so much more authentic. So billboards, billboards, it's quasi-print. It still is print, but it's outdoor. But certainly it's another way to get your message out within your own community. And it does it in a way certainly that's different than digital. If you're driving and you keep seeing these billboards for this one company, you hope the connection is made later on when they need that service, that they remember seeing those billboards. So they're great for brand building. They're great for getting your name in front of people. Obviously, with the amount of traffic that passes by them every day, people will see that. They'll take notice of your brand. And it's a great way to also create your own narrative. So you can kind of use the billboards to maybe tell a specific story, or maybe even to address a specific problem, or maybe it's a marketing problem. And billboards can do that in a way that's kind of unlike other mediums. And I want to show you an example of that. So Timo's Heating and Air is a client of ours out in Palm Springs, and one of their competitors were offering a warranty, basically. They were offering lifetime service on the installation of a heating and air conditioning system. But the caveat was, in order to get that lifetime warranty, you needed to use them, I think, 2 or 3 times a year to actually service your air conditioning system. And if you missed any of those, or you didn't schedule them, then your warranty was voided right at that point. So, people thought, oh, wow, I'm getting this lifetime warranty. And then the fine print was, well, you've got to actually get service all these times during the year, and you're going to wind up spending a ton of money per year to get all these different to get these quote unquote maintenance things. Now, maintenance is something that you should be doing, but if you don't get the maintenance, it shouldn't void the warranty. And that's basically what we're doing. So in order to sort of combat that, we said we created this billboard, and don't make the mistake of a lifetime. Our AC guarantees are gimmick free. So you can see, we're sort of addressing what's been put out on the, and in this instance, there was actually other billboards that were nearby that were talking about this lifetime warranty. So it was really kind of interesting the way that this happened, because we put our billboard basically right after theirs. So it really kind of addressed that particular problem. And certainly it would have been very difficult to hit that head on in any other medium, where you weren't seeing 2 of the ads essentially competing for one another at the same time. You know, this is a simple billboard. You notice too that on the billboards, we're not putting a lot of content. We're not putting a lot of information, bullet points, things like that. You know, the average time that you're going to have to view a billboard is, you know, depending on how fast you're driving, is very quick. So more about integrating the brand, making sure the logo is large on there, and making sure that there's a, you know, usually a singular message if possible. You know, and again, when we can, we do like to integrate a vehicle if possible on some of these types of billboards, because this is something that they've seen in the community. So I want to make sure that they're connecting the dots of, oh yeah, I saw that van working at my neighbor's house. You know, so that's why sometimes you'll notice a lot of our advertising integrates the vehicle, because we feel like the vehicle is sometimes more ingrained in people's minds than their actual logo is. So making sure that they can connect the dots is something that works really well. Here's another simple billboard that we did for Zoom Drain out in Long Island. Again, very simple to read, easy to digest, and I know what they do. I don't have to really work too hard to try to figure that out. Blanton's was changing their service offering. They introduced plumbing service to their heating and air conditioning business. So this was a billboard that we did to really speak to that right away. So, you know, you're going to have part of that process of educating the customer about what you can, a service offering change. This is one of the means that you can do it. You're also going to probably do direct mail and email blast and talking about that, you know, any new service that you're offering. But billboards was a very effective way for people in the community to know, okay, well, yeah, Blanton's does plumbing now, and they also do electric, you know, so I can get that from them. Point of sale and trade shows, you know, it's another way where, you know, you're interacting almost more personally with the people that you're selling to. So, you know, posters, point of sale materials, you know, those are all ways that you can certainly use within a retail store, or if you're at a trade show, to advertise a specific promotion. You know, the cost of getting some of the point of purchase displays now has dropped so substantially that, you know, it's just a very easy way to promote either within store or, again, at a trade show, anything unique of what, you know, that you're offering. You know, if it's offer based, you know, if you have a retail location, certainly that's a great way to go. Trade shows, you know, people come up to the booth, they're going to talk to you, they're going to interact with you. Again, that's where the other tools are going to come into play. You're going to have the brochures that you're going to hand to them. And, you know, one of the things that we like to see too, and I have an example here, is, you know, how do you get people to come to your booth? If you've ever been to a trade show booth, you know, people kind of walk by and they kind of look at you and they'll kind of decide whether or not they want to engage in a conversation with you, you know. So how do you try to make that more inviting? And, you know, one of the ways that we've seen that happen is, you know, if I go to this one, is using mascots. So this is a client of ours, Harold King, where we designed their logo, and the logo has a mascot that looks like this physical mascot. So what they've found is they've gone to these different shows, and they've gone to even just community events, and all the parents come up and they want to have their children take a photo with this mascot. So think about how great that is. You've got the parent there. She's all excited that there's this mascot, and the children are kind of excited about taking their pictures with this mascot. So it's kind of a unique way to really draw traffic to either a trade show, or if you're at a community event like a parade or anything like that, it certainly works well. And these are just a few examples of some of the different types of trade shows, trade show booths that you can get. Again, heavy on the branding in terms of integrating that throughout. These are some point of purchase displays that we designed for KL Ortho. So when you walk into the medical center, you know, these are some of the types of banners that you can have, and they're so easy to change out, and it's cheap. And it's just a great way to really try to integrate your brand as well as promote some of the different services. This is a trade show booth for Mozzie. Again, we looked at his brochure before, and, you know, you could kind of see how it's the same look and the same aesthetic. And this is more for a retail location. This is for Courtesy Cleaners out in Rhode Island. So again, just illustrating kind of some of the different point of purchase displays that they can have when people come in to drop off some of their dry cleaning. This is a series of trade show banners that we did for Tonna Mechanical for when they go to the different types of community-based home shows. So, site signs and door hangers is another simple way that you can keep your message in front of the people that you're trying to sell. So you're out on a job. If you're a service business, you're working at someone's home. An easy thing to do is to put up a lawn sign. They're so cheap that, if you don't get them back, it's not the end of the world. And you can leave it on the side of the road. Let's say you're working at that home for a few days during an installation. Think about all the traffic that drives by in front of that home that's going to see that site sign. And then, if they have a similar challenge with their home, or maybe they're thinking about getting a new roof, or they're thinking about getting a new, whatever case maybe, they're going to see that site sign. So it's something that's out working 24/7 while it's out in front of that particular home. And it's just a really simple tool, and it's not very costly to let people know that you're working in a specific area. So the other thing that I think is really useful are door hangers. So we've seen door hangers work very well for service businesses. So they're working out in the community, and they go around and they leave door hangers on a couple of different houses, that are close to the ones that they've already been on. We've done door hangers kind of to the nth degree, where some of them we have particular offers. So that's another way too, where you're getting an offer-based promotion, where sometimes people are more likely to act on that. So we talk about the site signs being a little disruptive. The one thing that you see a lot is you'll see like one color site signs. Maybe it's on a white background with red lettering, and it just kind of blends in with everything else that homeowner might be seeing. Certainly it doesn't integrate the brand in the same way. So we'd like to make sure that if you're going to do site signs, that they really integrate the brand, that they're a little bit visually disruptive from what people are used to seeing in that neighborhood, and something that I think stands out. So here's a few examples. These are some of the the door hangers that we've done. And you can see we put some information on here, some content, and then we also have some promotions here. These are two different ones that we did for two different heating and air conditioning companies. And you can see that they're pretty large. I think the size is 4 by like 16 or something like that. So, they tend to, again, they're hard to miss if you do get to hang them on a door. Here's another one that we had done that's offer-based. And these are a couple of the site signs that I just wanted to show you guys real quick. And one of the cool things that we're able to do is you can do site signs now that aren't square, or that they don't need to be square. So these particular ones are two clients that we actually had the shape cut out. So that was kind of neat because, again, everyone's using square signs, so it just looks visually a little bit different to have something where the actual shape of the mascot in these particular cases was actually cut out of the sign. And the cost on these, again, not radically different from doing square ones, but I think they make such a difference that I think it's just worthwhile to spend a couple extra dollars to get them. Here's another example, again, just using colors that are a little bit, more unique, kind of this, Kelly green and blue. And see how the brand, again, is very well integrated into the signage here. Here's a site sign that we did for air professionals. Again, unique color scheme, this sitting out on the side of the road. It doesn't look like every other real estate sign or signs that they've seen for other contractors. So I think it's, again, a really good tool. We also want to minimize the amount of content that goes on these site signs because you just don't have time to read it. So phone and web are really typically the only things outside of the brand that we want to see on a site sign. There's no point in listing a whole bunch of things because it's just, people aren't going to have time to see it. So, direct mail and postcards, certainly we've seen that that's something that people do get, so people still get mail, and they actually open up the mail and they read the mail. So what we've seen in this particular instance certainly is that you have to be persistent with direct mail. Doing the one thing where you send out a whole bunch of pieces one time and then you see that you didn't get a great result and you're like, oh, direct mail, it's terrible, it doesn't work, I'm not doing it anymore. The reality is it takes repetition for direct mail to really start to gain traction. So you've got to be committed to it. You've got to think about, how you can continue to have different messages sent out on a regular basis. And we love it when we can do campaign-based direct mail where there's actually a series of direct mail pieces that go out, because I think that they work better. Again, using direct mail to show offers and coupons certainly is one way to try to get people to engage and call you and take action. Make sure that your brand is well integrated and not generic. Again, going back to the idea that we want everything that customer interacts with your brand to be authentic. We want it to be well integrated. We want it to show how important your brand is to those people. Okay. Here's a couple examples. Like I was saying, these are a few campaigns that we did. These are just two examples from the campaign that we did for Clear the Air, an HVAC contractor out in Texas. So you can see, again, the branding is integrated. We have their mascot living on here. We have offers, and these campaigns were if you look at ROI on these versus some of the other mediums that we were doing, I think that they were more effective in terms of the cost per lead and the cost per acquisition. So, I still think it has its place. Will it be as big a piece of a marketing budget as SEO or pay-per-click? No, it probably won't be, but it still should be part of the mix. Here's another piece that we did for RDS where you can see some of the, again, how well the brand lives. His color scheme is already very disruptive. Getting something like this in the mail tends to make them want to look at it at least. It doesn't blend in with the rest of the mail. So it's, again, another important part of repetition and making them see that brand, those unique brand colors, and they see these trucks on the road. It all kind of works together as part of a cohesive campaign rather than just, I'm only going to do this part of the campaign and ignore the other aspects. This was a direct mail piece series that we did for Blanton's, again, where there were some offers on here. And then these went out as a series. I think there's obviously 5 here, and repetition. I think they went out every month is what we wound up doing. So I know I ran through a lot of stuff. I probably talked a little bit faster than I normally do, but I wanted to, make sure we can get through everything. I just wanted to see if you guys had any specific questions on any of the things that we talked about today, and if I can answer them for you. If you want to just type into the chat, that would be great. Somebody has to have some questions. Scott Wise has a question. I know he does. He wants to ask it. Come on, Scott, what do you got for me? Okay, you guys are gonna leave me hanging with no questions? Really? All right. Well, if no one has any questions, I just want to thank you guys for stopping by today, this afternoon. If you wanted to share this with anyone, the video will be posted on YouTube probably in a couple of days. And I think we have another webinar scheduled. I don't actually know what that topic is or when it's going to be. So we'll get you an email out and let you know when that next one will be. But I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Wait, okay. So somebody had a question. Let's talk some cost for getting started. So John sent me a private message, but I can repeat it for everyone. At least I think I can, John, unless you wanted that just for me. But let's talk some cost for getting started. So it's kind of a big question, but what specific things were you looking for cost on as far as what you should be investing in? You said it says, I'm a startup and I have a tight budget. So what are the most important things and what type of business do you have, John? And I could try to answer that for you. What type of business do you have, John? And Mark, you asked about leave behind. So leave behinds would go under the first category as far as the print brochures. So the leave behinds would be like those sales brochures. They could be, 1 or 2 sided flyers. They could be trifolds. They could also be 11, 17, 4-page, things like that. So going back to John's question, and Justine, I'll get back to you in a second. So John just said you do new construction. So I guess you're building homes. So again, the things that you're going to have to invest in as a startup, new construction residential, tough finding customers. Okay. So John said he does new construction for residential and he's having a tough time finding customers, and he does construction management. A lot of competition. Yeah. So a lot of competition, certainly in that space. Some people with some pretty substantial marketing budgets that are, really it's gonna be hard to outgun them, at least initially. But the most important things that we always preach to start for any startup is to really invest in your brand first, and then integrate the brand on some of the different channels that you think your customers would be living. So new construction, I would think a lot of those customers are searching online for builders and things like that. So trying to get your website in front of those people is important. And then if you're trying to market a specific house, like if you're trying to market, if you have a specific floor plan for a house, or maybe you already started construction on a specific property, then certainly having the plans available for people to see is important. And then let's face it, John, if they're going to spend a significant amount of their money on having you build a home, the biggest thing you want to instill to them is confidence. You want to make sure that they trust you, that they believe that you're a company that is honest and trustworthy, because they're going to be giving you a large amount of money to build a home for them. So the pieces that you need to develop would need to really speak to that. They're going to be apprehensive about you if you don't have a long track record or a lot of examples of people that you've built houses with before. So you kind of have an uphill battle, but I'm sure you've done work for other people that have had a great experience with you. I would try to leverage those opportunities, try to leverage, testimonials from those people. But for me, I think you got to start probably online. I know this is a webinar on print, but you probably got to start online after you finish with the branding. So I hope that answers some of your questions there. So Scott asked about mixed media with QR codes and augmented reality. So we haven't really been a huge proponent on the QR codes. I think it can work. We just haven't really seen a tremendous application that makes sense for a service business to deploy it. So like I'm reading a print ad and then I've got my phone and then I'm going to click on my phone to get to a specific page on a website. So I don't know. I know people have used it and it's worked. I just haven't seen applications for our client base where I felt like it was something that made sense. I know people sometimes have asked us to put QR codes on the back of their vans for a truck wrap, and I always tell them I think that that's kind of a really bad idea, because is the guy driving the car, is he driving the car while he's trying to take a picture? That it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So augmented reality, it would be pretty cool. We haven't really gotten into that space, Scott, but I bet you there's some cool stuff there. And then Justine, let me go back to what you had to say. You said, aside from spot gloss, have you ever experimented with different types of materials for printing, such as soft touch paper, recycled paper, et cetera? Yeah, for sure. So I wish I had a better sample, but this, even like the piece from Mozzie, is on a dull finish, and it's on basically a satin finish. So we're doing a bit more, and actually this is really soft, this particular paper. So I do love when we can print stuff on those types of materials. Like I don't have a great business card example to show you, but we've done a lot of business cards on a matte finish, and then you go back and you spot UV certain parts to get that to pop. But I do like doing some of that stuff when we have the opportunity to print on a recycled stock. Like the original brochure that we did for Mozzie, for Timo's, which I couldn't locate a copy. It must have got lost since we moved to our new office. But the piece that we did for them was on that type of material. It was just like, it's like you wanted to touch it. So it was kind of a really nice texture. So, you have the traditional 1117, coated 100-pound gloss text that a lot of brochures live on. But when we have the opportunity to do something that I think is a bit more, premium, it's like it's that whole part of that premium experience when you have that texture on that brochure that's different than what everyone else is doing. This is another one for us too, which is our thank you card, and you guys can see again printed on a matte finish with the spot UV. It kind of looks pretty cool when you get it, because it's again a little bit different the way the gloss black hits the matte black. So any other questions for you guys? All right, cool. Well, listen, just want to thank you all again for coming today, and really appreciate you guys participating. There's a whole bunch of other webinars that we presented. I think we have 5 or 6 now that's on our YouTube channel, and they're also on our website. If you go to if you're on our website and you go to KickCharge.com, and then you just go under Tips and Tools and you go to KickCharge U. You can see some of the other ones that we've done. I did one recently on naming, and Kim did one on social media, a truck wrap one that I did, and building a disruptive HVAC brand, and digital marketing. John, I would say, John, by the way, this building a disruptive HVAC brand, although it's geared towards HVAC businesses, a lot of what I speak about in that particular webinar is really applicable to a service business like a builder. So that might be one that you might want to check out when you get a chance as well. So Scott's question to me is, when you first started, what was the biggest obstacle to go from solo freelance to that first hire, and how did you overcome it? I would say the biggest obstacle to go from solo to freelance. Well, I would say when I first started, for the first 5 or 6 years, it was more of a conscious decision to not have employees, because I had twins that were newborn, and I wanted to be home with them. So I would say when they started, probably kindergarten or first grade, is when I really started thinking about hiring employees. And I also just wanted to, I started getting to the point where I was more passionate about certain parts of the business. Like, I was really passionate about branding. So I wanted to focus a little bit more of my efforts on that realm, and not so much on some of the other things that I was starting to get engaged in. Like, we were starting to do some websites, and I love designing websites, but when it came to doing the other pieces of once the website was built, I wasn't as passionate about that. So my first hire actually worked for me out of my basement. So it was a little weird. She came 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and then she did 2 days a week at home. And I did that for a while, and then I actually hired another employee who also worked at the house, and then it just started getting like a little crazy. I'm like, my neighbors are going to start, not being too happy that I'm basically running a small business out of the basement of my house, and I have employees coming to the house. So I got my first office in 2007, and at that point, I think I had 3 employees when we first moved in there. But so I don't know if it was an obstacle or it was just intentional at the onset that I wanted to sort of remain solo. And then, as we started growing, I just started realizing that, having really smart people to surround myself with was going to take us further than me trying to do it all by myself. So I really always looked to try to hire people that were much better at things than I was at certain aspects. So that started with hiring copywriters, hiring illustrators, hiring web developers. I mean, all people that are obviously, experts at that particular piece of the marketing puzzle. So, I think that was the part too, where, if you're working solo now and you're looking to grow and you're looking to get bigger, is to just try to surround yourself with people that are a lot smarter than you are. And that's really what I've tried to do. There's a lot of really smart people here that do some amazing stuff, and I can't even begin to understand how they do some of the things that they do. But it allows me to stay focused on the things that I really love, which is, again, working on the brands. 20 years later, and I still really love working on brands and logos, and certainly trucks is a big part of what I do here. So just, find people that are going to complement your skill set, and people that maybe can do some of the things that maybe you just don't want to do, and I think that's when you start thinking about also is, can you really work on your business and not in your business? And if you're solo, it's very difficult to kind of do both, because you're wearing too many hats at that point. One of my first hires too was someone to help out with the bookkeeping. Like, I really despised dealing with bookkeeping, and I still despise dealing with bookkeeping. That's why I have an amazing person here who does that for us. So, those are all things too, which maybe take you away from what your core competencies are. So I think that those are always, those types of hires are always somebody that will maybe free you up to do things that are more important for the growth of the business. So sorry, that was a really long answer, Scott. Cool. All right. Well, again, thanks so much for everyone for stopping by here today. And this will be posted probably in a couple of days if you wanted to share with anyone that was that couldn't make it here today. And we'll have another one scheduled soon. I just don't know the date on that particular one yet. So we'll let you know. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.